Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I'm going to explain the block pattern with the Flutter. Actually a lot of questions has came to me about how to use block patterns. This block pattern is very important, is like a most useful one, a most advanced way to work with the or to manage a state in the Flutter. Not only manage a state but organize your application. So we can use it as architectural pattern or architectural style like MVC, MVVM and so on, and also we can use it as a state management or to manage the state in your application. If we compare Bloc with others like Getx, like Provider, we can say Bloc is a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult than others, but it is more useful. You can trust it more because it is recommended by Flutter team. You can say it is like recommended, is like a favorite with the Flutter from the Flutter team. So it's really important to understand it. After watch all this video from the beginning until the end, I can promise, I can give you a guarantee that you will understand everything related with the block pattern, and you can implement the block pattern in your application with any task. So just focus with me and let's start with the video. So first thing, you can always see this this diagram from the documentation. So in block pattern, simply we can divide our application into three parts. So first thing, we have the UI. We can create a folder for everything related with the UI user interface. We have a block, which is a business logic, everything related with the business logic, the code, the logics. And here the data, so the data, which means the data source, like any data source like SQLite, like API, like application programming interface, I mean maybe Firestore, Firebase, something like that, storage, anything, get the data, maybe even Excel file. So anything, that data source, we can just add it here in this folder. So we have only three folders. We can see here the data and UI are totally separated, so there is no relation between data and UI, no dependency between data and UI. The dependency and the relation only between block and data and between block and UI. So block here working as a link between UI and data. So in the block, when I need the data, like when I need to fetch data, I need to get the user data, I can just make from block, we can make a request to the data, and then data will respond with the data, with the like user information, for example. And then in the block, the block will receive an event from the UI, from the user. Events like click a button, for example, or just initialize the application. Just when application start working, this is the event, for example. And depend on this event, just emit or just send a state. So state here is like a variables, but why we say state? Because it is a variable, but this variable, whenever this variable change, the UI will rebuild it. So we need to rebuild the UI whenever the states change or this variable change. Like a variable, we have counter, for example. The counter equal 1, and it is displayed in the text widget as the number 1. Now if this state or if this variable changed to be 2, we need also to make a refresh or rebuild the text widget to show the number 2 instead of number 1. So this is what I mean by refresh or rebuild. So this is the idea behind the block. So I have created another diagram like this one. Maybe you can find it a little bit complicated at the first time you see or you look at it, but it is very simple. Just stay with me and try to understand it. Just focus with me. So here, same thing. We have a data, we have a block and UI, and we have main. I just separate main from the UI because in the main we will inject, so we can make it in the separated file. So now you have only three folder: the data, the block, the main file, and the UI folder. As you can see here, this is the example of the application I have created, and we will make it, we will implement it or practice it in the next video. So we have in the library, we have folder for block, folder for data, folder for UI, and we have a main, like here. So now, first thing, you have a data. When you start creating your application, start with the data, because it is the source. Most of the application need a data. Maybe you don't have a data, so you can just delete, just remove this one. It's not a problem. But in most of your application in the future, you need a data source. So the data may be from API, from SQLite, from Firestore, anywhere. It's not a problem. So just try to get a data, like update data, delete data, everything. You can find it here in the data, in this folder. So here, as you can see, in the data, I have folder data. Inside it, we have weather repository. For example, I want to get the temperature, the weather, information about the weather from the API. So just create weather repository, since I have only one data source, which is the weather here. Then start with the block. First thing, finish this, make a request and finish. Now start with the block. A block, maybe we have one block, maybe you have 2 blocks, and so on, maybe 10 blocks. So you will ask me the question here, how can I know how many blocks I should create, for example? So usually or simply, I can say here, you need to create a block for each task in your application. So for example, I will create application in the next video. This application about weather. So we need to write a city, like for example, I write a Mosul city, and I need to get the weather for the city. This is the first task. So here I create a block I called weather block, for example, because I have the block here. And I need also to check the internet connection, if there is internet connection or not. So here I need to create another task. This is another task here. So I need to create another block. So another block, I can name it like connectivity, for example, connectivity block. So here 2 tasks I have created 2 blocks for that. Maybe I have another task like login, for example. So I can add another one called login block, and so on. So it's not depend on the how many screens you have. It's not related with the screen, related with the task, the functionality that you need. So for each functionality you can add, or for each task you can add a separated block. In each block we have event and state. Like for example, in the weather block. So how can I know what the event and the state? This is the important question here. What the event? What I mean by event? Firstly, event, which means user click on the button, for example. This is a type of event here. User click, this event. Another event, for example, loading data. When I run the application, I need to load the data. So this is another event. When the application running, this is another type of event. Maybe click enter, this event. Maybe for example, go back, this another type of event. Anything came from the UI, this the event. So for example, in my application, if I'm thinking about my application for the weather block here, if I have weather block, what the event here? I need just when user click on the button, give me the weather. So give me the temperature, for example, in Mosul. So here I can create one event, which is like fetch weather, get weather, for example. So this is the event. Now I need a state. After I add the event, as you remember here, get event, and depend on this event, we have a consequences. So what the consequences here? What the consequences here? So after click here, what happened? What I need to do? So the block will send a state. So what the states here? What the kind of states? So this is very important to think about the state, and this depend on you. It's not something like static, not changeable. No, it's change. It's depend on your application, depend on your idea. So for example, in my application, in the weather, when I click, I need to get the weather here. So what happened? First thing, we have initial state. Always we have initial state. That's the at the beginning, initially you have initial state. Then, for example, when I click, I'm waiting for data from the API. The data here is like asynchronous, which means not in the same time. We have a sync and a wait. So I need to wait for this. While I'm waiting, I need indicator. So progress indicator. So here I can add a state for that. I can name it like, for example, loading state, right? Loading state. So we have initial state, we have loading state. After that, I can get the data successfully, get the temperature successfully. So I need like success state. After get the data, I need success state. So this is the third one. Maybe the data will come, maybe have error. So I can add like a try catch. In the catch, I can catch the error. So we have also another state called error state. So with this simple application, I find, or with only one event, I have 4 states here. And same thing, if you have another block, you can also create it in the same way. Think about what you need the event, what the states, and create the block. A block is what? We have event, we have a state. Now the block is what? A block is just like mapping the event to the state. So I say, for example, if the event is like fetch weather, the state should be loading, and then get the data, and then the state will be success. After that, if it is not correct, not give the data, give me the error state. So just make a mapping between event and the state. When the event like this, I need this state. That's it. This is the idea behind the block. As you can see here, now we have here data. I explain it. Also, we have a block. We have connection block or connecting block, and we have weather block. For each block, we have event, state, and the block. Event, state, and the block. This is the architecture of your project. And finally, we have the UI, the user interface. User interface, I also preferred here to add, always prefer to add the widgets, because here I have only one screen. So for that, I explained, I said before, not a block for each screen. Here I have only one screen, but I have two blocks. So the blocks depend on the tasks. But here one screen, but this screen has multiple widgets. So it's better to add a folder especially for the widgets. In this widget, in this folder, I have another folder for weather, because I have one screen here, so I have a widget for this screen for weather. Maybe I have another screen, or I have another widget for another thing. Now I don't have, so I have created only one, weather. So here I add what? You remember here in the weather block, I said we have a state. User press, give a state. Depend on this state, I need to build the UI, user interface. This is the idea here. So here I have created a separated widget for each state. So if the error state, I create error widget. So give me the message error widget. Just widget, give me the error message. Or maybe more complicated, depend on your application. Initial state, give me initial widget, the first widget I can see. Loading, this for progress indicator, also make it in the separated file. And success, if I successfully get the if the API successfully return back the temperature, I need to create another widget here. So all of them, I will just call them here inside the screen. So this is the structure, this is the architecture of the project. Same thing here, I just make it here more clear, but in the real world will be like this. We have a block, we have two blocks here. Inside each block, we have block, event, and state. We have a data, we have a UI. Inside UI, we have widget. And in the widget, we have weather widgets. And I have added 4 widgets here. And we have only one screen. And we have main function. This is the idea. Now, we have finished here. Create the data and create the blocks. Now, we need, in the block here, we need to inject the data inside the block. We said before, we have a dependency, we have a relation between block and data. Like I said here, block will make a request to the data and data responds. So here we need to inject the data inside the block so I can get the data, make a request, and data will respond here to me. So here I will inject the data inside the block. After finish that, we will start with make a dependency injection. Now I have a widget tree. The widget tree or widgets tree start from the material app. Inside material app, below the material app, we have all the widgets. Maybe we have 3 screens, 4 screens. Inside each screen, we have multiple widgets. But here we have the root, which is material app, or the main page, master page, you can name it. Something in at the root, at the top of the tree. So here I can inject the block, because from the block I need to all the objects here, all the widgets here, I need to access the data from the block, the states inside the block. So to do that, I don't need to make for each widget, I need to create another object. This is very, very wrong way. This is a big mistake here. We need to create a widget here. In this widget, I need to create an object from this block and object from this block. In this widget, I need to create an object and object here. No. We need just to inject the object in the material app or below the material app, in the root, in the main. And after that, all widgets below can access this block, can access injected block. So we have one object, which is the block here, injected here, and we can use it we can access it. All widgets can access it from the tree, from the material app. So how we can do that? See in the code. First thing, I say I have a data. So in the data here, this is the step number one. So create data with a repository, then get the API. This is the API, for example. Make a request, HTTP request to the API. If it is okay, just give me the data here and give me the temperature. Here from the API, we have a data JSON data, one of them called temp C. So I just need this data, the temperature here, and return the data. So here in the data, I just have this one, or here we can say weather repository, and this is the weather repository. Weather repository will return the temperature. That's it. It's not related, not connected with the UI. Just return temperature. Finish. Now in the block, second step, we start with the block. So here in the block, I need to create events, state, and in the block. We said here, each block have event, have states, and a block. And here we can say in the block we have states and we have events. So let's start with the event. We said I have here, you need to think about what the events you have. It's depend on your application. So you need to think about that. So for example, I need just to click and to display the temperature, depend on the country. So here I have only one event. Now you ask me the question here, why you said here abstract class weather event? Why abstract class and then just inherit from this class, make inheritance, extend? I will tell you. Here it is not clear since we have only one event. But here in the state, you can see I have created the abstract class weather state, and here I said I have weather initial. This is the first state. The second state, weather loading. The third state, weather loaded, and fourth state we have weather error. So we have 4 states here. The problem here is what? In the block, ask me to add here the weather event and the weather state. So since here we have 4 states, which one I have to add here? And also maybe I have multiple events. This is a very simple application, so I have only one event. But if I have more complicated application, I have maybe 3 or 4 or more than 4 events here. So which one I have to add here and which one I have to add here? I cannot do that. So I have to add everyone? No, of course. I need to add one thing here. So for that, I need to create like a parent class, which is abstract class, and here add parent class. And all other states or all other events will just inherit from this class, or from this abstract class. So now when I say weather initial extend weather state, which means what? Which means weather initial is weather state, weather loading is weather state. Same thing here, fetch weather is weather event, since it is extended from it. This is the inheritance. So when I say here weather state, I mean all those 4 states. So it is very important to add abstract class at the top, and all of them will be extended from it. Now tell me why here I need a city here, because in my application I need to add a city, like I write down Mosul and click. I need to give me the states or give me the temperature here. So I have a state here. I have something inside it, inside the related or connected with the event. So just add it here, string city, and just add it in the constructor. That's it. It will not do anything here. This is just for organize the application. And here same thing, you can see weather initial is empty, weather loading empty, and all of them are empty, except for example weather loaded, I have city and temperature. Why? Because when I load successfully the weather application, I need to display 2 things, which is the temperature and the city, Mosul and for example 33 degree. So for that I have added also 2 here, 2 states or 2 variables, and just add them in the constructor. And in the error, I have message to display the message error. But maybe for example in the initial state I don't need to display anything, and here I don't need to display any data, just loading. Here just initial, just display the widgets here. But here I need to display some states, so I have to add it here. Now finish the weather event, weather state. Now go to the block, and the block it is in this way. And then we said we have number 3, injection. I need to inject the weather repository, the data inside the block. So number 3 here, inject the data inside the block. So since we have the data here with the repository to get the data, and here I need to inject it inside the block. After that, I can say on fetch weather, which is this one, which is the event. So on fetch weather, what I mean whenever this event happen, I need to do something. That's it. You'll ask me the question here, when it will happen, this one, the fetch weather. I don't care about that. Now I'm in the block. After I connect with the UI, user interface, in the user interface I can say now, for example, whenever the user click on the button, I need to add this event here. But now I don't care. I say on this event happen, what I need to do. So I need to first thing emit, like I said here, remember, get event and then emit, or just broadcast the state here. So just emit, I say here, the first thing when the fetch weather start running, for example, when the user click on the button, first thing weather loading, emit the weather loading, because I need to make loading. Now there is no loading, I just say make loading, but in the loading I will make it in the UI, not here, user interface. So I just emit that, and then try get the data from the, for that I make here I make injection, because I need to get the data from the weather repository, fetch temperature depending on the city, and give me the return what temperature. After that, after get the data successfully, emit or broadcast another one, which is weather loaded here. Weather loaded. In the weather loaded, I need the city from event. I can get it from event, and I need also the temperature. As you can see here, for example, in the fetch temperature, I need the city. So for that, I add it here in the event here. I add the city. Without the city here in the event, I cannot access the city here. But now I can say event.city, since the city here. Same thing here in the weather loaded. I have here city and temperature. So here I can access it from event. I can add the city and temperature from here. Catch, if there is error, just emit or broadcast another one, which is weather error, and add the message inside it. This is the idea behind the block. So we have event, we have a state, and we have a block. Just when event happen here, I need to make this first thing the state, then get the data, then broadcast or emit the state, and then if there is error, emit another state. This is the idea. Now also we have another block, for example, for internet connection. So for connection, I need just to check if the there is internet or not, internet connected or disconnected. So here you can think about the first thing, the event. The event is just check connectivity, only one event. So I just make check connectivity. We have one. Then what about the state? How many state I have? First thing, I have initial state. Always you need initial state, and then I need two states here. Connectivity, connected or disconnected. You can name it anything, of course. Just connected or disconnected. Now in the block, what I said here I don't have any dependency. I don't have dependency injection or anything, because I don't need the data. There's no data connect. So here just say on check connectivity, on this event happen, what I need to do, just check the connectivity by using this library connectivity, check it. If connective result equal mobile or Wi-Fi, if there is connection, just emit the connected, otherwise emit disconnected. That's it. Just this happen. If there is connection with internet, give me, or just emit this state, otherwise emit another state or broadcast another state. Now finish here. Now we need to make injection. Now finish the block and second block, finish this one. Now we need to inject the block inside the main function. So go to the main function in the material app. Beside the material app or below the material app, we have here repository provider, because we need also to inject the repository, the data inside the repository, which means the data here from the API. I name it repository. So the repository, we need to inject it also inside the block. So you can, if you remember the first block here, we said what? In the constructor of the block, we have repository. So here I make repository provider to make inject, dependency injection, and just create an object from weather repository. After that, below in the child of this one, this will, the repository provider will be the parent, and this one the child. I add multi-block provider since I have 2 blocks here, not 1 block. If I have 1 block, I can just use a block provider. Since I have 2 blocks here, one for weather and one for connectivity, so I have added here multi-block provider. In the multi-block provider is nothing but just give you like array or list of providers. So just providers, and here we have like a list. The first provider here, weather provider, block provider, and the type is weather block, sorry, and create the weather block, the first one that we have already created here, weather block. And also we have another block which is connectivity block. So here another block which is connectivity block. But here in the weather block, you remember we need a repository, so I just inject the repository here. And here what I said, I need the event here. The event, you remember here we have the event, but when the event will happen, I mean when the user click on the button, we need to check the internet? No, we need to check the internet whenever the application start running at the beginning. So for that I can just add it here by double dot here, which means I have created a new object, and then just add which means add event, and add the event here which is check connectivity. So now I have added check connectivity, and here I said what? On check connectivity, check internet. So automatically will check the internet. If it connect, give you connected. If it is not, give you disconnected. That's the idea. So here we have 2 repository, block provider 1, block provider 2, and all of them you can see above the weather page. Weather page, it is just a page. Inside it or below it, we have all the widgets. So we need all widgets inside weather page has ability to access all states inside the block here. So for that we just add it at the top, like exactly like here, add it here, and now in the UI we can access everything. Now finish this one. Now in the UI, which is here, I have created here the weather page. Now I go to the weather page. This is the weather page here. In the weather page, now we need depend on the states, because now we have a states from the block. Depend on the states, we need to build a widget. Sometimes we need to build a widget, or sometimes we need just to check something like give the notification, not build a widget. For that we have 2 widgets here. We have a block listener and we have a block builder. A block listener, if you want to use a state and not return any widget here, not build any widget without building widget. If you have to use a state, check a state, and depend on the state, build a new widget or rebuild the widget, you need to use a block builder. So now here I use a block listener for the connectivity, because for the connectivity I just want a notification, not build anything. So I say block listener, I add the block connectivity and connectivity state here, listener, everything. Now I say what? If state or connectivity connected, how can I know that? You remember in the block here we say on connectivity, whenever connectivity start, which means the event, check the connection and then emit connectivity state. So now if the state is this one, connectivity connected, just give me notification which is connect to the internet. Just give me this in the UI. If the state is connectivity disconnected, give me this message. That's it. Now block builder here for the weather. Now in the weather, depend on data, we need to build something, depend on the state. So I say if the state is weather initial, return initial widget. This is the initial widget here. In the initial widget I have created another widget, and this is very simple. You have column, text field, and we have elevated button. So user can write the name, you can see here. This is the initial widget, you can see here the connectivity, just notification. Now when the user write here Mosul, for example, click, when I click here the event will happen here. If you remember that, you can see what I said here. I said here weather loading on fetch weather. When the user click, where is the fetch weather? I said in the UI. Now here in the UI you can find it in the initial widget. You can see when the user writes something like Mosul, click on the elevated button. We need just to add by using context.read and all the thing, add fetch weather and add the text inside it. Fetch weather, for that I said I need to add whatever user write here, the city. So here you can, in the fetch weather I add city, so I can add in the constructor city. So here I just add the city. So now when the user click, this weather this fetch weather will happen, this event will happen. Depend on this, I said what? If this happened here, emit the weather loading and then get the temperature and then load it and everything, right? So here you can see now in the real application. Now I write Mosul, click, now the event, you can see the first thing loading, give me the loading widget, and then give me the loaded widget or success widget. This one, this is the information. So first thing, initial widget, the first one, add the picture, add the Mosul and everything. If it is loading, give me the loading widget, just loading, another widget. Otherwise, if it is correct, loaded, give me a success widget, which is the widget that I show you at the end. Inside this widget, we have a state, city, and temperature from the state, because here also I have added in this way. Here you can remember in the weather loaded, I say city and temperature because I need both of them. So here I just add both of them from the state. I can access it from the state. So simply this is the idea, and you can see the code here in this way, and it is working without any problem. I can just say here the widgets and everything, initial, error. You can see error, for example, just a widget and give you the error message. Loading, for example, just a simple widget and give you the circle indicator and give you the text loading weather, for example. And success give you this one here. So just a normal widgets, just a UI, is nothing important here. I know it is a little bit complicated, it's not like very simple. We have used like a little bit advanced example here, since we have two blocks and we need to work with two blocks. We used the block listener, with the block builder, block provider, multi-block provider, repository provider, and almost everything important. Now if you understand this one, and in the next video inshallah we will explain, or we will implement that, make that practically, so you will understand it more, I think. Hope you understand that, and thank you very much.